All right, we're at the Wilted Forest, and kind of in the backwoods truly area of the Wilted Forest is the Abbey. And you can see from the structure, it's quite Gothic, um, medieval slash Gothic. Um, there are walls around it. Um, there is a graveyard in here where probably, the past, can't read anything on these headstones, but usually the abbesses would be buried um, here, um, and possibly, uh, the novices and anybody else who had passed while living here. In
That
times
sounds.
past, and I'm speaking for kind of medieval Europe, um, families would send their unwanted daughters here, uh, and sometimes even an only daughter if she was unmarried. They'd actually endow her or give her a dower and send her um, to be cloistered away in an abbey, and it was sometimes used as a threat over their heads as well. Um, kind of seems cruel and unusual, but um, you have to consider the times that people were living in. And the daughter would be dispatched to a place like this, and then she would be, sort of ordered to pray for the souls of the head of the family, usually, um, and for his afterlife. And if you were wealthy enough in times past, um, you would might even be just instantly become the abbess of such a place. So you'd be in charge of all of the inhabitants of a cloister, because that's really what this is. It's a cloister for women, and that's all that's here. And the only man you ever find here is Mason. Um, he's the NPC you meet soon after, in fact, right after you come to Grand Soren. He's kind of like the first NPC that you meet. Um, he comes here from the mainland. He's tasked by the faith to find out what salvation is about. So um, he's sent here to investigate a cult, and I think he's sent um, by the faith to find out, gee, what does this mean for our um, congregation? Is it pulling members away? In times past, when things like that happened, they were worried about their tithes, um, and would it take contributions away? Now, what's also interesting is that Kina goes from the Witchwood and then comes here. So that's also has some parallels because in times past, um, in your local village, if something was wrong, you first probably went to your local wise woman um, or herbalist and tried to get a cure that way for whatever ailed you or a family member. And then if that didn't work, um, and you may have even done it at the same time, you'd also visit your church, your local church, to find out, gee, what can they do about whatever affliction you have. And let's face it, Kina um, is she does have both feet planted firmly on the ground. Um, she's also spiritual, and she really wants a cure for you. So first she visits the Witchwood, and then eventually she makes her way here. Um, and uh, in the meantime, she finds out that she has a special power. She can bless flowers that give special abilities. But I think really at her heart, in her heart, she wants um, a cure for your heartlessness. So, in some way, when that heart was plucked out of your chest by the dragon, you've changed, and you have. Um, and maybe it's an analogy for you becoming a little more cold um, so that you're able to do what you have to do as you progress and search for your heart. and then eventually confront the dragon. So I'm post game. I've already confronted the dragon, um, and the world is quite different, although it's still pretty grim here. It always feels like when you come here, there's lots of leaves on the ground. They tried to convey that. It's not quite winter, but it isn't fall either. So um, in where I live in the United States, um, we have a time of the year that's quite like this, where all the trees have fallen, and it almost whenever I, as an Arisen, would come through here, I'd always feel like, gee, there's just a bit of a chill in the air. Of course, you can't really feel that. So the Abbey has ties to the mainland church, but it is also far away from any kind of defense. So the novices and the abbess and its inhabitants rely on prayer to keep evil at bay, and this wall. And the wall is the analogy for keeping evil at bay. And now the dragon has been defeated, and we meet one of the novices.
You have done it! You have silenced the evil that threatened our land. I had faith you could do such. We're saved! We're saved! It's almost... Well, it's all a bit overwhelming, to be honest.
So she's quite young, or quite naive, probably not very worldly. And then we come in here, and we're going to talk to the abbess, the Mother Superior.
I don't understand. The dragon is defeated, its threat long past. What new evil is this? All my life, I have trusted in prayer to hold us stalwart against evil. But now, for the first time in remembering, I find myself afraid.
And then when we talk to Kina,
A chasm to another world? Is that Ma the root of all the dark times of late?
How does the day find you?
okay, so they'll keep talking. We'll leave. And when you get in here, um, it is quite bare. Um,
How
it
does
does
the day
seem like
find
there's
you?
no, windows. It's open to the elements and such. Um, quite bereft of anything that's
How does
very
the day
grand, but
find
still
you?
a stalwart structure. So um, I think the Abbey not only has the ties to the faith on the mainland, but then through Kina has ties to the Witchwood, and in contrast to it, so that you have um, a place that is in the backwards of the sort of the kingdom, far away from the capital, um, and yet um, isn't shrouded by a fog to keep it safe, but rather has walls around it to keep it safe. And that is the Abbey.